Welcome to the LawyerFair.co.uk daily podcast. LawyerFair helps businesses find the right lawyer at the fairest price. But on this podcast, we just chew the fat with some great guests.
Welcome again to the LawyerFair Daily Podcast. I'm Andrew Weaver, CEO of LawyerFair. Today we are joined by a guest based in the heart of Wisconsin. Welcome, Alicia Cramer.
Thank you, Andrew. It's a pleasure being here.
Well, thank you for joining us. I know we've been chatting offline that it is dark and rainy in Wisconsin today, and I hate to tell you this, but as I glance across the setting sun in West London, we've had an absolutely glorious day here. I like to boast this. As you probably know, the English love to chat about their weather.
Well, I'll tell you, it does not hurt my feelings to hear that you're enjoying nice weather.
Well,
I'm preparing for the cold season, which is quickly approaching us. So.
Well, fantastic. Well, nice weather, of course, affects the psychology of people. It's a very natural thing. And we are actually talking about psychology in business or mindsets in business, which is a fascinating subject. You work as a business coach for clients across the world and have appeared on various well-known media organs, Forbes, Fox, ESPN Business. So we're really thrilled to have you with us today. But before we kind of delve into the rich topic of mental conditioning, if I can put it that way, just provide us with a little background to where you've come from, Alicia.
I'd be happy to, and I'm going to do my best to keep it short because just like every one of us, we have our backstory, that series of events and unfoldings that led us to where we are right now here today. I will say that I have had a strong desire to be an entrepreneur since I was probably I think it really kicked in when I was 18 years old. And I'll say that because of my mindset, I failed far more than I succeeded. And it was not an easy road. You know, we always look at people when they have achieved some degree of success, and it looks like it must have been so easy. Like they must have had some happy cloud shining on them. Not the, I don't know if you guys have Winnie the Pooh there with the Eeyore. I always felt like Eeyore when I was a kid. I was definitely the Eeyore. But it was a challenge, and it was all of those challenges that I went through that really launched me into this understanding of how significant our mindset is, because I had so much inner work that I had to do to overcome all of the obstacles that I was creating, all of the self-sabotage and the issues with depression and self-worth and feeling like there was something wrong with me. I had to really go deep within to work through a lot of that stuff and learn that I could, in fact, use my own mind and my own inner resources to achieve things that were meaningful to me. And that's really just a high level, kind of almost airy-fairy rendition of my journey. But I've done a lot of different types of businesses. I've had a hypnotherapy practice, a local hypnotherapy practice, found that my passion for entrepreneurship just kept bubbling to the surface. And so I really shifted gears to working with entrepreneurs, business owners, largely on mindset, but also on the practical, tactical how-to of growing your business.
Okay, well, I mean that's great, and it leads us nicely into the kind of subject we're going into, and the whole issue of entrepreneurial mindset. We were talking again offline that this is something that affects everyone from the person about to start a business to the person running a multi-billion-pound business. I mean, you've essentially been coaching and speaking to people from those extremes.
Yes, yep, absolutely. I've seen this affect everyone. Like I mentioned to you before we started the interview, I've seen this affecting, and it frequently affects individuals who are really in that state before they've taken any practical steps to build their business, when they're feeling inspired, when they're feeling called, when you get that kind of that bug, the entrepreneurial bug, and you want to do something, but you're bumping up against all of the limiting beliefs that you have, thinking that successful people have some type of skill or credential or ability that you don't possess, to clients that I've worked with that own companies that are worth tens of millions of dollars, speaking in US dollars, of course, who are struggling with their own inner conflicts, their own self-esteem and self-worth issues, confidence issues. So it affects all of us to various degrees.
Well, that's right. And I think also, I noticed that you recorded recently a podcast relating to lawyers. And I think it's interesting. And when LawyerFair deals with business owners and lawyers, so we cross over. And I think the issue for professionals is often quite stark, because the issue for professionals often is that they think that they need to be seen to know everything. They're being employed by these people at probably a reasonable rate, and they are expecting answers. And I think that sometimes that creates very serious psychological mindset issues for that professional.
Absolutely. And I've seen this with a lot of individuals that work in any type of professional service, like lawyers, doctors, really anyone that society has kind of put these labels on. We have this expectation that we're supposed to live up to. And when you're perceiving yourself, your kind of inner world, what you're thinking, you're looking around yourself, you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, I don't have a multi-million-dollar home that I'm living in. Does that make me less than? I don't have that level of income. Does that mean that there's something wrong with me? Am I faking this? What if people find out that I am not a genius? What if people find out that I don't know all of the answers, or that I sometimes feel doubt, that I sometimes feel fear? There's so many different things that are going on within people, these standards that we're expected to live up to. And I've often said that many of my clients really are struggling in silence because it's taboo in your industry for someone to know that you have doubts, that you don't feel confident, that you're struggling in your personal relationships. So these are really critical things, because what's going on within us is affecting every aspect of our lives.
Absolutely. I mean, I once, or I still know, still know this particular individual who is a leading lawyer in the UK, and handling some very big ticket items. And he once admitted to me that he often goes into court when he's litigating and fully expects a hand on his shoulder every time he goes in there, from someone who says, "Hey, mate, you don't know anything, do you? We've caught you out." And that kind of fear is kind of constant for him. But Lithia, how do you deal with that? Because certainly from a professional's perspective, any sign of weakness to someone who is essentially instructing them to advise and guide is surely not going to come across very well.
Well, there's a couple of different ways that we could approach that. And it does vary a little bit from one individual to the next, because the root of your feelings are going to be unique to you. So sometimes it's really your kind of conventional psychology, if you will. Where did that fear or belief originate from? And it's shifting that at a deeper level of the mind so that it's not kicking up so much emotional discord for you. But there's also kind of a bigger picture that comes into the equation, and that is when we're really out of alignment with ourselves, and we're trying to live up to somebody else's version of what success is. And you don't become really truly happy, fulfilled, as well as successful in the outer way, meaning achieving certain results in your life by trying to be something or someone that you're not. It'll never feel congruent. It'll always feel off, and that will slow down your progress. So that's where we really start to look at, who are you? What do you want? What is your version of success? Because a lot of people don't realize that the life that we're living, we get to make those rules. We get to decide what our version of success is for us. And that's really a whole new concept to a lot of people, because we're really driven to achieve these certain standards, these certain results. We all have this idea in our mind of what success looks like. And a lot of people that are able to some degree, create the appearance of success, but are not wholly in alignment with themselves, they don't feel the success. And you could be feeling so much more and living so much more when you get into alignment with who you are and what your values are.
Yeah, I mean that's really fascinating stuff. I mean, we're moving in here to something, and can you just articulate for us a little bit more about the imposter syndrome, this concept, which I think fundamentally is about comparing yourself with others, but could you just give us a little more explanation about what that is and some of the key areas that people can address within that syndrome?
Yeah, I think it's important that people realize that there are varying degrees of imposter syndrome, and some people may not have even heard of imposter syndrome. I remember when I first came across the term, it was like a light bulb went off. I was like, wow, other people have that too, and there's a name for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is really when we achieve certain results in life and we feel somehow unworthy or undeserving of them, almost as though we stumbled across it by accident, or somebody's going to find out we're really not that great. So that could be something as basic as receiving an award or recognition for some accomplishment. It could be earning a degree or a title or a credential and feeling like I really don't live up to that standard. And there's that disconnect again between what does that mean to you? What is that picture in your mind? And it's about our ability to see and feel and know that we are valuable and to live a very different reality internally where I do deserve that recognition, but not based on somebody else's standards of success, based on me just going out there and being my absolute best self.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of this is fantastic. I mean, the imposter syndrome concept. I was like you; I didn't know anything about it until quite recently. And listen, I'm happy to confess. I think I've occasionally stumbled on the basis of comparing myself with others, and this. I mean, I was involved in consultancy for a while, and I kind of step away from it now. And I think I did try and be the person who knew everything, and listeners to this podcast will know that I don't often quote Socrates, but that fantastic quote of "all I know is that I know nothing" came to me actually quite late in my career. But since I've kind of thought along those lines, and you think actually, reach out, ask questions, allow yourself to look a little more vulnerable. It's amazing how that changes your mindset.
It really does open you up to more growth, and it opens you up to more people also, because I think we all can relate to somebody who comes across as arrogant, right? We've all encountered that. We may have even been that way at various points throughout our lives. And there's an interesting thing, right? When we encounter somebody who has that kind of energy, right? It's so off-putting. And that person oftentimes is projecting, they are compensating for an insecurity. So like you said, when you had that awareness that I don't have to know everything, I don't have to pretend to know everything, you become so much more authentic. And that doesn't mean that you come across as an idiot, right? You're standing in your power. You're acknowledging your strengths, and you're not showing that you're weak because you don't know something. You're growing, you're evolving, you're open to acknowledging that there are some things that are not your strengths that maybe you haven't learned yet. And there's a lot of relatability in that, because we're all that way. There's all things that we don't know that we're still aspiring to.
Well, listen, if our Skype video was working, Alithia, whilst you were saying that, you'd have noticed my arm going up in the air to say, yeah, I think I recognise that. I mean, I'm sure in younger years, and those that perhaps knew me would say, yeah, there was an arrogance there. And I know now that it was about projecting and trying to compensate for what I felt were weaknesses. And actually, just being authentic and just acknowledging that everybody has weaknesses has completely changed that. And I think, so I completely buy into that, and the fact that arrogance normally equals, serious worry from that particular individual about being exposed, or in their mind being exposed for not knowing everything.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating, and that's a journey that many of us have been on. Listen, this is really a fascinating topic that I could go on for a long time, but we only have a certain limited time on our daily podcasts, Alithia. Now, if people want to find out more, and certainly want to find out more about what you do and some of the thoughts that you have about this subject, I know that you've written a number of books, and obviously there's a website as well. Just give us a bit more detail about how they can find out more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the best resource to give listeners who would like to learn more about what I do or to reach out and connect with me is through my website. That is aliciacramer.com, ALICIACRAMER.com. There you'll also find links to my books on Amazon, my most recent book, The Outside the Box Entrepreneur, and my previous book, Hypnosis for Success.
Well, listen, it's been a real pleasure. I hope we brought a little sunshine, a little West London sunshine into your Wisconsin day today.
Absolutely.
It's been great. It's been great to speak to you. Thank you for your time, and it's a fascinating subject. Alicia Cramer, thanks again.
Thank you, Andrew.
Not at all. That was the LawyerFair Daily Podcast. We will be back with more tomorrow. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks for listening to the LawyerFair.co.uk daily podcast. If you'd like to listen to more, why not subscribe and download each episode via iTunes, or visit us on the LawyerFair.co.uk website.